G'day! This is the second video about alienable and inalienable possession in Australian languages. And if you haven't seen the first video, you should. So in the first video I introduced this phenomenon and I introduced Ngara, the Ngara language. And now I have looked at a few other languages of the area. Ngara's immediately neighboring languages, Nyamal and Nyangomara, where Nyamal is closely related, that much is obvious, and Nyangomara is more distantly related. And I also looked at this language, which is not immediately neighboring, but which was spoken in the same area, a little bit further south. And actually, I find this language name a bit of a tongue twister. It's called Mardudunera. Mardudunera. I really can't say it faster than that. And TH then is neither th nor th, but rather t, t. Just as NH is n, with the tongue between the teeth. So let's start from the top here with Nyangomara. Despite Nyangomara not being closely related, we find the exact same situation as in Ngara when it comes to how inalienable and alienable possession is expressed. So we have part-whole relationships like ngaju parir, which is my hand, literally I hand. And then we have alienable possession, and this is also the same in Ngara, that the two constituents of the genitive construction can occur in either order. There are really only two orders available, of course, and there are, in the Ngara database, there are lots of examples with both orders. So the order is not important of the order of the two constituents. And the same would seem to be true in Nyangomara. So this means the girl's dog. Midawamili yogoro. And this, their father. So Jabadu is father. And this then the third person plural pronoun with the genitive suffix. Let's skip Nyamal for now and get back to it, because when it comes to how alienable and inalienable possession is expressed, Nyamal is actually the odd one out among these languages, Ngara included. And let's go to Mardudunera instead, which is the odd one out in another respect, at least among these languages. You see, Mardudunera belongs to a small group of contiguous languages in Western Australia. Contiguous meaning that they all border each other. Languages that have developed a consistent nominative, accusative case marking pattern. And with nominative, accusative case marking usually comes the passive derivation. EFF here stands for effector. This is the agent of the passive clause. and the effector suffixes are actually the old ergative suffixes which have been reanalyzed. So here we have Niomoi Taningolai Nganajowolo Yando, which means, I haven't memorized all of this, I'm afraid. This means, this dog will get hit by my wife. And the most important part here is this one here that is underlined, which shows that you need genitive marking when you talk about your wife. Actually, Jan is a spouse, sexless, a sexless word, but in the context, this means wife. And when you talk about whole part relationships, you also get the same kind of construction as in Nyangomara and Ngara. So, ngayu juri, I arm, meaning my arm. So, let's go back to Nyamal. Now, it is a fact that not very much has been published about Nyamal. When it comes to how much material has been collected in different Aboriginal languages and how much information has been published, Australia is really a patchwork. I know that there is material collected in Nyamal, but not very much has been published. I did find this book chapter, however, chapter 52. I believe this is from a volume by Franz Planck about double case, but I may be wrong. I haven't written anywhere here on this printout what book this is from. You see, the thing is, when you've been doing research for a few years, both books and printouts start to pile up. Yes, and well, you take out some printouts and then put them back in the same place or in another place when you've looked at them, and things tend to get messy. So I can't find the list of abbreviations, unfortunately. So I don't know what this is here. And neither why Kulyara does not get the same gloss here as here. But actually, that is not what I find most important about this example. What we have here is another way to express inalienable possession. That's what's most important. So you see in this Nyamal example and in other unpublished examples that I've seen, when you're talking about body part and some sensation in the body part, there is no pronoun present as you would have in Ngara, in Nyangumara, and in Mardodonira. Instead, the only person marking that indicates what person it is we are talking about and what person's body part, really, the only person marking occurs on the verb. So here we get Pumbal Ngarinyana, Kuji, Kayari Kulyara, Pijunga Kulyara, meaning my leg is sore from swimming in the river. Here we have the same, exactly the same construction as in ngara. So my aunt, to be specific, midari means father's sister. And Australian Aborigines want to be specific. So there are different terms for father's sister, mother's sister, father's brother, mother's brother, and so on. And actually, I should do a series about kinship in Australia. You see, it has been said that the Australian Aborigines traditionally had the least developed material cultures of any peoples on the planet, but the most developed and complicated kinship systems. If they did have the least developed material cultures, I really can't say anything about. I don't know anything about that. But the kinship systems definitely are ridiculously complicated from a Western point of view. Is that reflected in the languages? How is that relevant to language, you might ask? Yes, it is very much reflected in the languages when you see the sheer number of kin terms there are that describe exactly how different people are related. Even more distant relations, you understand that this is very much connected to language. So I should do a series about that, actually. It will be a rather long series, since that is a complicated area. Anyway, one thing that fascinates me is that while Ngara and Nyamal obviously are very closely related and are very similar in some ways, they are also very different in other ways. So, to take this example here, in Ngara, this would be Mandu wanu para nganongalo midarilo kambarara giliara. My auntie gave meat to the little child. And here we have what perhaps we might call an idiosyncrasy in Nyamal. For all other persons except second person singular, they use a pronoun when talking about relatives. But for second person singular, there is instead a suffix, pado. So, Margara pado. My brother, no, your brother, of course. Now it doesn't say here in this book chapter whether this is older or younger brother. There are of course different terms for older and younger brother, just as there are for older and younger sister. But let's say that Margara is older brother. If that is the case, then the Ngara equivalent would be Nganunga Kaja. So quite different. Is this unexpected? With a suffix used for one person? Is it unique? The answer is no to both those questions, as it so happens. We could compare to our neighboring language here in Scandinavia, Finnish. You see, in written Finnish, there is a possessive construction using suffixes. So take the word äiti, mother, which is an old Germanic loanword. Finnish has a number of these really old Germanic loanwords. So my mother is supposed to be äitini. Your mother, äitisi. Her mother, äitinsä. That is in written Finnish, and it goes on with other suffixes in the plural. But in the spoken language, they use pronouns for all persons except for the second person singular. So my mother is mun äiti. Her mother is sen äiti. And your mother, second person singular, which is äitisi in written Finnish, becomes äitis in the spoken language. So, not unique. What this means is your brother is coming to you, coming to see you. By the way, I just realized I said that this would be nganunga kaja. In ngara it should of course be nginunga kaja. Sorry about that. So, in ngara, nginunga kaja, milbayan, nginunga, milbayan, nginunga, nganimaliarara. So, what can we say about this whole situation? Well, it is in the literature described as a situation where we have alienable and inalienable possession. But then, why are relatives included among the alienable or in the alienable construction is what I am trying to say here. So, well, I did some reading about alienable and inalienable possession in general, and it turns out that the cutoff points, so to speak, between the two constructions, those vary in different parts of the world. So body parts are usually inalienably possessed. That was very difficult. Inalienably possessed. But evidently it varies to some extent with relatives. Inalienably possessed in ngara is also names, by the way. So relatives are not, but your name is inalienably possessed. So yiningaya or ngaya yini, I name. So unlike in some Native American cultures in North America, where you traditionally could change your name several times, your name is something that you keep. I will be back with a third video where I look at alienable and inalienable possession in Australia as a whole. So, see you later.